Hey there, Virgo. So this is a new forecast for the next 2 weeks ahead on the waxing moon phase from the new moon in Pisces, leading you to the full moon in Virgo in your own sign on the 14th of March. So it's an important 2 weeks for you because I always think leading up to the time of the full moon, and in particular, this next full moon is going to be massive, like a total lunar eclipse. It's the first eclipse of 2025, and it's going to be the first eclipse season of 2025 as well. It's a big one, but it just so happens to be in your sign. So this forecast is going to take us on a journey from the new moon in Pisces on the 28th of February, and we're going to be going to the 14th of March. Now, in this, there are 1, 2, 3 real things, like 3 real points that I want to focus you on to help you feel like you can get to know yourself. This total lunar eclipse in your own sign, I think, is going to bring up a lot of who am I? And in particular, this new moon in Pisces is going to bring up a lot of other people's stuff that you might wrap yourself in. You might feel a little bit wrapped up in everyone else and not quite really tune into who you really are. So I do think over this next 2 weeks, what's really going on is you're on a discovery of who you are, a discovery of self. You're coming back into self. In the lead up to the total lunar eclipse, it could have some really massive energies. Now, as with all new moons, the new moon is a seed point. It's a time when there's no light in the sky. So it feels like, we're working in the dark. And it's a time to plant our seeds, to put our seeds in the soil. And I always see it as a time to tune into what we might need to do or what we might need to create for ourselves. So very, very magical time. Now, in the first week, literally up until the 7th of March, when we get to this midpoint on the first quarter, this is a time for us to gently move forwards and to come into gentle hope and to lay the foundations of where we want to be moving in life. And then after this first quarter point, which often coincides with a bit of a decision-making process, we can often come into a sense of possible confusion. Maybe we feel a little bit off course. And so we're coming back and we have to sort of adjust our journey ever so slightly, but into this second part of the week forwards. And it's time to take action and to really start to move forwards. Now, if we're considering that this is on a journey from, everything that we're not to everything that we are, this is going to really transform from the 7th of March. So an interesting time. Now, during this, we're also, and I've laid it out as a diary format in case you're a little bit more rational, given you've got you're a Virgo or a Virgo rising. You'll see that these moons are on the 2 Fridays, so the 28th. Then we've got the midpoint at the first quarter around the 7th, and then the total lunar eclipse on the 14th. So it's very much oriented to Fridays. But given that Mercury is your ruler, it's also important to bear in mind a couple of other things. So the 2nd and the 3rd of March are really big days for you. First of all, because Venus is going retrograde, and that's kind of big for all of us. She doesn't go retrograde that often, and when she does, it causes us to reevaluate the things that we're attached to. We're really reevaluating our values. I guess reevaluation covers values, doesn't it? But we're often a bit nostalgic, feeling into the past, feeling into times when maybe things were a bit easier, a bit more relatable. But it really brings up our thoughts about money and also relationships, because Venus really rules all the good that wants to come into us. And so when she's retrograde, sometimes we realize we've lost touch with what was good in our life, and we're trying to kind of get back onto that path. But on that day, we've also got Mercury, your ruling planet, in a conjunction with Neptune. That's big, because this is a real dreamer's energy. The very next day, Mercury goes into the sign of Aries. And so there's the sort of energy of stepping up and stepping into, your own ruling planet energy. This is a time for you to feel like you're moving forwards a bit. And then, the other important Mercury thing going on during this time is Mercury making a conjunction to Venus. So again, we've got this Mercury-Venus theme going on. Now, if we also look at the charts, so this is taking us from the 28th of February, that's the date of the new moon, and we're heading to the time of the total lunar eclipse. So this is 1 week in as the moon, this is on the 7th, just before the moon goes into the sign of Cancer. And the moon is going to be, during this 2-week period, is going to be moving from here right the way through to here in your first house. So this is quite a big thing. But what you'll see in both of these charts, look, Venus is here, Mercury. If I go back to the beginning, hang on, you'll see it clearly. So Mercury's here, and a week later, he's moved into this part of your chart. So we've got this really tight band of energy in between, mid Pisces and into mid Aries. Now, this is a really important part of your chart, because this is about the 7th house. This is, about our relationships, our relatedness to other people, our intimate partnerships, the kinds of people that we attract into our lives. I also think this is a massive projection screen for us. Like, this is everything about you and your body and how you see yourself. And this is how you see other people, how they appear to you. And it's you could say it's a projection screen. Everything that you're seeing in other people is something that you don't see in yourself, because it's the polar opposite. So often what's going on in your relationships is showing you what you secretly can't acknowledge in yourself. So um, this is going to be a really interesting time, given that there's so much in this area, Saturn, the North Node, Neptune, Mercury, the Sun and the Moon, in particular with the new moon. Now, over this period of time, Venus is going to go retrograde from the 8th house, and she's going to be heading back into this house, into your 7th house as well. And then she's going to go forwards from this point on the 13th of April. So Venus is going to be coming over here. Mercury's moving over here. And, on the 15th of March is going to head back into Pisces. So there's a lot of energy. There's a lot of focus here. So the 7th house is about your partnerships, but also how you might project onto them. And then the 8th house is, I think, the values and resources that the people in your life have and share with you. So, for instance, if other people are judging you, which is their value on your life, so blame, shame, guilt, anger, resentment, that can come up in this house. It also has a lot to do with sex. That sort of physical manifestation of your relationship also has to do with other people's assets and how you share things together. So it's the physical manifestation. So you've got the physical manifestation in terms of your two bodies coming together, the physical manifestation of what you share resources, and then the psychological manifestation of their expectations on you and your expectations of them. So this kind of transition point is really deep. So this new moon, which is creating the potential for you to discover more about your partners, I actually think is more about you discovering about yourself through what you're seeing in others. And then quite quickly, like within a day or two, obviously, the moon goes into Aries the very next day, and then the moon is traveling through here until the 3rd. What you've got going on here is, the emotions, the growing, waxing moon phase. Whatever you're feeling about your partners, those feelings are growing over the next few days, and you're likely to come into this place of triggers, place of secret ammunition, where you might be holding things against each other, and all of that's coming up. Remember, this is in the lead up to the total lunar eclipse that's going to be in your sign, where you discover who you are. I mean, you can't escape yourself at that time. It's going to be really huge. You're likely to feel quite sensitive. So really pay attention to what's going on here in this first few days. Now, obviously, in this first few days, Mercury is on the 3rd is bounding into Aries. And so everything you know about partners and have communicated with partners is going much deeper. So, you're going to be going into much deeper conversations, a deeper understanding, possibly a deeper sharing, because Mercury can be very friendly, and is sort of moving goods and services from place to place. It's not just about communication. So there is, a real sort of like possibility that you're going much deeper in your relationships. Again, the deeper you go into your relationships, the more you find out about yourself. Interesting times. Now, Venus going retrograde here is really showing, I think, that whatever is going on in terms of your shared resources and your attitudes towards the resources that you share with your spouse, your family, even resources that you're sharing with the tax department or the bank or your stocks and shares and stuff, you're going to be reviewing your attitudes to that. Venus, usually when she comes into this point, into this part of your chart, shows that maybe you might be gifted a little bit, or you might have a breakthrough in terms of your finances and how you're seeing things. When she's going retrograde, it's like, you're not quite ready for that breakthrough yet. You're still working through something. And that something has to do with your partners. So to me, it feels like you might be waiting for an answer. Maybe you're needing to get a shared permission. I don't know. Now, there is another meaning to this house, and I think it's also about a rite of passage. The 8th house is also showing us how we're growing up and, moving from one stage of life to another. And the fact that Venus is going retrograde here, and from the 15th, okay, this is going into the next reading now, but from the 15th, Mercury is going retrograde over here. To me, it shows that you're about to step forwards, into a new version of yourself, but there are some hesitations. There's some things holding you back, and those hesitations, I think, could be linked into how you feel about yourself and your partner, or how you feel about yourself through the eyes of your partner. So that's a lot of info in setting up what I think is going on right now, over this next 2 weeks. Now, let's focus a bit more as we're moving forward. So Mercury going into Aries, you'll be a lot more direct in terms of how you're sharing information. You probably be quite acerbic. You might be a bit more sarcastic than usual. Don't be afraid of that. You may well jump right into some heavy debates with people around you. So you need to be aware of that. It can be a bit combative. However, I do think you'll move through this. Mercury is quite fast moving, and the moon is obviously going to make conjunctions here. But later on, when she's in the sign of Gemini, literally, where are we? Yeah, around like coming up to this midpoint, coming up to the so in between the 5th and the 7th, what I really see is happening is the moon here, she's going to be coming into a conjunction with Jupiter. She'll be in a sextile with Venus. She'll be in a sextile with Mercury, because by that time Mercury is more round here. There we go. So she's going to be working quite nicely with these guys. It's going to feel quite fun, so even though Mercury's coming into this place and Venus is going retrograde, there are going to be some times when you're actually feeling a lot more fun and a lot more in a place of relief. During that time, actually, from the 5th to the 7th, I really do recommend that you do something outward facing, that you're getting out and about and sort of sharing yourself, feeling like it's fun to stand strong in, the image of who you are, like, I don't know, whatever it is you're known for. Maybe you're a performer, maybe you like to, I don't know, help out in the community. I don't know what it is that really essentially describes you, but actually between the 5th and the 7th, I think there is this moment to kind of feel your energy, or feel where you're moving to, and to feel a connection with the people around you. Now, when it gets into the sign of Cancer, from the 7th, just before then, like towards at some point, I guess it depends on where you are in the world. I'm at the midpoint in London, around the 7th. The moon is going to be in a square to the north node and a square to the south node. So again, it does feel like there is this other perspective, like, where was I? Who am I becoming because of the people I'm in the company of? And actually, who am I really? So I do think this this March the 7th area, like this decision point, which I said is around the first quarter, you're going to be sort of challenged in decision and you're challenged to make a decision about your intention. So whatever you're thinking about yourself around that 7th, I actually think is going to be quite helpful. It's going to give you a real clue as to who you really are. It's a bit like one of those memes, what people think I'm doing, what my family think I'm doing, what my friends think I'm doing, what my bosses think I'm doing, what I'm really doing, what God thinks I'm doing, all these different perspectives. But it's like, who are you really, like who are you becoming, I guess, is what's becoming apparent around the 7th. And yeah, it might feel a bit of a crisis point because you realize the person you're becoming isn't the people you're in relationship think you're becoming, and maybe doesn't match the you from the past. And I think actually that's probably where we're coming to with the total lunar eclipse in Virgo. You're feeling the weight of the past vision of who you are, and it's time to kind of shed that. When we're coming up to a total lunar eclipse, especially an eclipse that's attached to the south node, it's a time to say, okay, well, that was the past. I'm not in the future right now. So who am I right now? It's like detaching from your past views, detaching from your past persona, and creating something that is really now and really current for you. So again, you're on this journey. Couple more things. So I mentioned Mercury going into a conjunction with Venus on the 11th. I think that is a strong day. Obviously, Venus is retrograde, Mercury is going direct. Now they're going to be meeting here in Aries. Now they are weirdly they are going into a retrograde. The whole retrograde period starts on the 2nd, ends on the 13th of April. And the Mercury retrograde and direct fits in between the whole of Venus's retrograde period. But their retrogrades both start within a degree of each other in Aries, and they both end within a degree of each other in Pisces. They are literally both going forwards and backwards over the same spot within the same time frame. So again, there is something really strong going on. And when Mercury conjuncts Venus on the 11th in the 8th house, I think there is a sense of the work that you're doing with this retrograde. So whatever is going on there, and you might want to consider, it's how you're talking to yourself, what you're learning about yourself, and what you're learning about your values about yourself. This is where the change is happening. So pay attention. You might want to ask yourself some detailed questions like, what lights me up? What would I like to bring more about in my life? Who do I really value in my life? What kind of people do I want to be around? Who do I see myself becoming? If I make a different decision now, what might, so you just ask loads of questions that are kind of focusing you on a future outcome, just to kind of test it in your mind's eye. I think that would be helpful because as these two are going retrograde together, they're going to be working on your self-concept. Obviously, Mercury rules your first house. Mercury also rules your 10th house. So not just your self-concept, but your career and your maybe final destination, like how you're heading in life. But with Venus as well, it's also it's speaking of your sense and need for freedom, and also your 2nd house to do with income. So whatever is going on the 11th has to do with how you can find freedom in yourself, freedom in your career, and freedom in your money. So a really, really deep time. So I hope that was helpful for you, sending you lots and lots of love. And if you found this helpful, then try out, I've got a couple of other videos just for you, Virgo. And it's Virgo to do with your relationships and connections, really focused advice on how you can lift your relationships up and go into deeper intimacy during this time. And then one focused on your career and ambition. i.e. like when's the right time to pivot and so on and so forth. So if you want an even deeper broken down look, then check those videos out too. Anyway, lots and lots of love to you, and catch you another time. Bye for now.